Hello and welcome once again to It's a Frankly Hairy podcast. I'm your host, Frank Weber. So glad you could join me again in the forest this week. Got a great show for you. Like always, I'm so glad that you're here and tuning in and listening. That's what makes it all worthwhile. I do need to bring you up to speed on an incident that happened in my neighborhood Friday night, a little bit before midnight. Which you may or may not have heard of. We've already had kind of a wild weather year since January 1 here, I think, and that's not unusual for the panhandle of Texas, but about 0.6 of a mile from here, according to Google Maps, in almost an adjacent kind of neighborhood or subdivision, apparently there was a tornado that touched down and destroyed or damaged, I should say, the roofs of about 20 houses or so. I don't think any one of them was completely destroyed, but I could be mistaken. I'm not able to drive over there. I think the police still have it barricaded off, if I'm not mistaken, but that's a little bit too close for comfort. And just want to send out a lot of thoughts and prayers for those families as they recover. I'm sure they'll recover and be fine. I don't think anybody was hurt. It was very close, though, to the house and the studio here. And I happened to not be in town. I was down south visiting family, but my wife and my dog were here. And thankfully, they were okay and the house was okay and everything. But I didn't get blamed for being away, by the way, in case some of you were wondering, since I was visiting family. But I got alerts on my phone and read about it online. So most people, I would guess, have never experienced a tornado damage their property. It's actually a fairly rare occurrence. You have to truly be in a certain place at a certain time, and just really a real luck of the draw type deal. But it can happen anywhere, and especially happens at this time of year, as we're now in late April, heading into May, and peak season isn't even here yet. So that may not be a harbinger, may or may not be a harbinger of things to come, but I just wanted to share that real quick with you. Everybody's okay, and anyway, I was just passing that along. I want to get into the meat of the show today. Have a great show for you here. So I'm finally getting around to introducing what I would believe will be a new segment on the show called Bad Movie Edits. Now, the movies are not necessarily bad, in my opinion, but the edits are. And they're basically what amounts to censorship, in my view. I'm a pretty, obviously being a podcaster and everything, a free speech advocate. And I tend to think that a lot of the movie, and I guess nowadays even some TV show edits, are a little bit unnecessary. They're very unnecessary and probably a little bit too much. I tend to take the viewpoint that when you edit things down, it's become something that the artist did not intend, and take something away not only from that person's work but also from the viewer or listener, if that makes sense. So I'm really not a fan of editing in general. I do, on the other hand, have a little bit of a sympathy for what do they call it? I guess they call it like public trust issues. Like, I think there are some simple compromises that can be made. For instance, when I was a kid, and I don't know if they still do this or not, because I don't have HBO channel anymore. I know they have a bunch of different channels, but these days, but they used to wait until after 7 o'clock at night before they would show an R-rated movie, and that seemed like a fair compromise. But then you can also get very deep into the weeds, very deep into the details about what should be allowed and what should not be allowed. And it seems simpler to just allow everything, but, if you're concerned about, your kids and everything, perhaps the parents can have a little bit more control over it, over what their kids watch and everything, that type of thing, because we can get really into the weeds. And in fact, I probably will get into the weeds on my analysis, but what I'm typically trying to do on this segment is to point out edits that to me are either funny or amusing, but a lot of times are also kind of stupid and unnecessary, and you wonder why the hell they did that. And I also should let you know that this is a pretty low-tech show, and I know it's kind of all over the place, and it's low-tech and everything, so I can't really provide you a clip of these edits. A lot of them are really not available on YouTube, in fact, but I can, in the show notes, provide links to the sites on YouTube, for instance, where you can catch the original clip, which is, in most cases, is better than the edited version anyway. But I just thought this would be a lot of fun, and it would be amusing and certainly uplifting compared to some of the deep and sometimes serious things that I talk about. Probably be a segment along the lines, I haven't done this segment a lot over time either, but kind of like what I do with the Q&A type segments, as we kind of build a show that is not just social and cultural commentary, but also entertaining at the same time. Oh, and one more thing I just thought of. Some of these are value judgments, to say the least. I tend to think that differences in values are what really causes the world's conflicts, whether it's between individuals or nations themselves or different religions, that sort of thing. It's all about differences in values. So I'm free to have my opinion. You're free to have your opinion. I just wanted to tell you that this is definitely another one of those value judgments, and those are everywhere in society. So we'll go ahead and get started here. The example that I'm going to use, if you're younger than 40, you're probably not going to remember these movies, although they are out there, and they don't come on TV a lot. They were big in the 80s. It was a trilogy, as it turns out. But I'm going to talk about, in this show, the first Cannonball Run movie, which starred Burt Reynolds and Dom DeLuise. I think Roger Moore, 007, was in it. Dean Martin, Sammy Davis Jr., a whole host of star-studded. It was a star-studded lineup, to say the least. I think even Terry Bradshaw was in there. I know my friend Jessica Lewis, is a big Steelers fan. He was in this movie, played a big role with Mel Tillis. Hi, Jessica, by the way. I know you're listening. Anyway, they had a series of movies, like I said, a trilogy, 3 of them. The last one was called Speed Zone. None of them were really tremendously great movies from a critic's point of view, and they're not necessarily ones that I would like watch over and over again, but they're fine if you're in the right mood and once in a while, I guess you could say. But the thing is, they were really funny. They had really funny parts, and they were just fun. Jamie Farr, who was Corporal Klinger on MASH, is the only guy who was in all 3 of them. And I saw an interview with him where he was talking about how much fun they had, and you could tell that it was a lot of fun to make those movies. Had a lot of great blooper clips at the end. And anyway, they haven't been on TV a lot lately. If they are, usually you see the second one. The second one wasn't great, and then the third one was terrible. But the first one, if I had to rank all of them, the first one was definitely the best. And for some reason, it's kind of disappeared over the years. So one day, several weeks ago, I was flipping through my guide, And I happened to notice on one of these more obscure channels that show movies and a fair amount of comedy. I don't think it was the Laugh channel, which is like LAFF, or I think it may have been the Binge channel. I don't really remember now, but I was just flipping through the channels on a Tuesday afternoon, and I noticed the Cannonball Run is on from 1981. That movie is never on TV anymore. So I went ahead and turned it on, and I think it was already about halfway finished. It's about, of course, an illegal cross-country race with various hot rod cars. That was kind of a big deal in the late 70s, and there were actually several movies made about it before the Cannonball Runs. And so it was illegal, of course, because they were speeding. They had to speed in order to make it in within the time frame. And of course, they were using public highways that weren't blocked off, and so there was obviously a safety issue as well. But there is one scene kind of getting near the end where everybody is stopped because of some kind of road closure or construction, right? And Burt Reynolds and Dom DeLuise are driving an ambulance. They're pretending to be a couple of EMTs. Like, everybody in this movie has a gimmick in case they get pulled over, that the cop will hopefully just let them go and go about their duties, even though they're speeding way over the limit and realistically likely to go to jail for it. That's kind of, the plot hole. But there are a couple of EMTs, and they have a fake patient in Farrah Fawcett, and there's a fake doctor back there, a creepy doctor played by Jack Elam, who has playing some sort of character from a horror movie. I don't watch a lot of the horror movies, so I couldn't tell you exactly what character he was pretending to be. But Jack Elam, of course, was known for being in a lot of westerns, and of course Farrah Fawcett was in Charlie's Angels. I think she was still married to Lee Majors at the time. But anyway, they're stopped, and right behind them, their big rivals are the two Catholic priests, pretending to be two Catholic priests in the Ferrari, played by Dean Martin and Sammy Davis Jr. And so everybody's gotten out of the car while they're waiting. Their car's out while they're waiting, and then Burt Reynolds comes over to, and Dom DeLuise too, comes over to Dean and Sammy, and they start having a conversation, and Burt Reynolds calls, you'll have to check out the clip, of course, but Burt Reynolds calls Sammy Davis Jr. a chocolate monk. And then Dean Martin winds up talking, but everybody seems to be taking the joke pretty well. I mean, Sammy was a good character and took the joke real well, and Dean Martin's laughing, and so are the other two guys. And Dean Martin calls Dom DeLuise a Goodyear blimp, because they're just exchanging these barbs back and forth like that. But anyway, this channel that I was on, so it's a satellite channel, but they decided to allow the word chocolate, but not the word monk. And that didn't make any sense to me, because obviously a monk is a priest in training, is basically the way that I understand it. I don't know, not being Catholic, I may have that definition wrong, but that's my understanding. And I think that they were wanting to bleep out, they actually just silenced it, there was no bleep, but I believe they were wanting to bleep out, they thought monk sounded too much like monkey, which can be a racist pejorative, and that's what Howard Cosell got into trouble with on Monday Night Football about 2 years after this, with regard to a guy named Alvin Garrett, and not Art Monk, who also played for the Redskins. I know there was a lot of confusion over that incident, but and that's, of course, a different story entirely. But to me, if they were going to, I don't think they should edit anything. I thought the word chocolate monk is off color and potentially racist, as some people might think it to be. I'm not a big fan of politically correct speech anyhow. it would have been more appropriate for them to edit the word chocolate than monk, but they decided to edit the word monk instead. Makes zero sense to me. And something that in the original TV run on network TV, none of that would have been edited out back in the 80s for sure. And they certainly didn't edit out the Goodyear blimp. But if I could ever find that particular clip again, I would readily show it to you. There's some other things in the movie nowadays that would be considered questionable. I think that there's kind of a double standard with regard to cleavage on women. You can show basically a lot of breast, but then you're not allowed to show the nipple. And now Cannonball Run doesn't have any nudity in it, but I'm just saying that there's a couple of scenes in there that I could tell you, and these are not edits, by the way. I'm kind of going off on a little bit of a tangent here, but there is a scene where there's always a couple of girls wearing spandex in these movies, and who can unzip their outfits to show their cleavage, and presumably that allows them to get out of a ticket with a cop. And so there's one scene where the Adrienne Barbeau and Tara Buckman are these spandex girls, and they're in a black Lamborghini. And so a CHIP officer, California Highway Patrol, or CHP, I call them CHIPs, by the way, after a popular show from the past as well. A CHIP officer pulls them over in the desert, and they're getting ready to get out of their ticket, perhaps, by Adrienne Barbeau, who's very buxom, by the way. She was on the show Maude, and then was in Swamp Thing about a year after this. But she, undoes the top of her outfit and pulls the license out of her bra, only to find out that the CHIP officer is a woman played by Valerie Perrine, who you might know from the first two Superman movies, a lovely blonde. She's also showing cleavage, and she's also a straight woman, so the cleavage trick isn't going to work on her. So it's kind of a funny incident. And then there's another incident in the movie with the Sheik and a waitress at a restaurant where he's ordering food and everything that also shows some cleavage. But I do find it really interesting. There's a lot of double standards on this. So cleavage, meaning you show a lot of women's breasts, but you can't show the nipple, which is a really bizarre thing to me, and that gets into the weeds of why is it that men are allowed to show their nipples and then women are not allowed to show theirs, type of thing. But big cleavage, big breasted cleavage especially, is okay to show. Anyway, but I am getting off on a tangent here, aren't I? But I do support the free the nipple movement, although I have to wonder sometimes if there's an ulterior motive to that. It has something different to do than just bodily freedom and naturism. But anyway, that edit, by the way, the chocolate monk thing made absolutely no sense to me, and I'll post it. I'll post the clips on the show notes for you here. But anyway, I definitely agree that you should check out the movie. And times change, and I guess things that are considered funny change, but I just don't. I don't understand. I don't think they change that much. I just think. I think human beings are alike in much more ways than we're different. And if once we realize that, and then we have kind of like this more live and let live attitude, I think it's really just. But people also tend to make things very complicated, and the edits are very complicated. I talk about things like Archie Bunker, and I don't know if they edit his show or not, but they certainly have disclaimers on it now, or at least that's what I've heard. But Dish Network took away my MeTV, so I haven't watched All in the Family in at least a couple of years now. So thanks a lot, Dish, right? I have been seeing some things, just to go elaborate on the edit thing real quick, and I'm not going to talk about this too much longer, but there is I do have a couple of DVDs, like a couple of DVD sets, like there's like I have a Three's Company, and I have Dukes of Hazzard, and a lot of those shows were edited for time when they went into syndication. Their actual, what you have on the DVDs was actually their original airing on TV the first time, in prime time. And sometimes I feel like that's also unacceptable to edit things for time. I mean, you're taking things out. Although I have run across a couple of Dukes episodes that don't make sense. Like one of the there was an episode where a young lady defeated Boss Hogg to become county commissioner, and that happened near the end of that particular episode. But then in the next episode, she's not county commissioner anymore. So we're left to wonder, like, well, what happened to her? And then I just watched one where, if y'all remember, Sonny Schroyer played Enos, and he had a spinoff for a little while. I think that was called Enos, where he worked. He went to Los Angeles to work for the LAPD. The episode the episode of the Dukes before he left, he was actually fired retroactively by Boss Hogg, and yet he kept working up until a certain point on the episode. So I didn't understand what was going on, and that was unedited, and I didn't understand what the hell was going on in that episode. So, and then of course other times, certain language. I didn't really want to get into another discussion here, but like, because I think I mentioned this a few weeks ago, but like Blazing Saddles has a number of scenes where the N-word is used fairly freely, without really regard for anything. The sensitivity and politically correct police would be offended by it, but the use of the word was done in a very satirical way for comedic effect, to show you how, ignorant people were in that particular town at that particular time. But anyway, I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up here now. I got off on a bunch of tangents, didn't I? I hope the segment was enjoyable, and if you didn't laugh at all, perhaps you learned something from it. But like I said, generally, I'm not a fan of censorship. I think we need to have as free amount of speech as we can possibly have. But well, anyway, hope everything's going well with y'all, and you're having good weather here in late April, and hopefully enjoying some good old movies and fun on the TV or whatever your entertainment choices are, including this show, in fact. But I'm going to go ahead and sign off now. As always, hit the subscribe button, tell your friends and family, whoever you run into, your auto mechanic, your home contractor, anybody at the grocery store, Starbucks, wherever, about It's a Frankly Hairy podcast. And send me some comments, send me a message, direct message. It does seem like the numbers are going up a little bit, and very pleased about that. I hope I want to answer as many as I can, but I'm a little concerned about bots. I think I'm getting some bot followers now, and I have to be a little concerned there. But well, anyway, thank you again for being in the forest this week. We'll see you here again next week. I'm your host, Frank Weber, signing off from It's a Frankly Hairy podcast. Bye. I love you. See you then.